All right, welcome back to the Other Half podcast. My name is Gabe Gonzalez.
And I'm Josiah Gonzalez. This is the podcast where we explore the experience and perspective of those who are of mixed race.
And today, our guest is someone who just completed a very successful college basketball career. He played Division I at both Seattle University and Southern Utah. And he just recently came back to play in Canada at U Sport at UBC. So today, our guest, welcome, Jadon Cohee.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. So we usually just jump right into this. The first question we ask is, what is your mix? What's your cultural and ethnic background? And then we just go from there.
I got you. Yeah. So I'm a quarter Jamaican, a quarter African, and 50% Scottish. So I guess you could say I'm right in the middle. I'm half black and I'm half white. The Jamaican comes from my mom's side. My mom's parents were born in Jamaica and moved to Quebec when my mom was born. And then the African comes from my dad's side. Although I couldn't tell you which type. I couldn't tell you where exactly the African I have in me is. I don't know my dad's dad. He was a professional athlete and had just a bunch of different kids, and so I never got to meet him. So my dad doesn't know any of that. But yeah, that's my mix, I guess.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so both your parents are half?
Yeah. So I'm super light as is. I'm very tan right now. My mom's even lighter than me, and she's half. And then my dad's much darker than me, and he's also half.
Okay.
And my sister's much darker too. It's funny how it all works out.
Yeah, it's weird. Our sister's like that too. She's darker. Our dad's Filipino, so he's he's super dark, and our mom's of German descent. But we just turned out really white for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, I'm tanned right now, so this is the darkest I'll get. But
yeah, me too. You won't catch me in the dark in a long time. I love it though. I'm trying to keep it dark as possible.
Yeah. Matt, you got to do if you're not opposed to it, you should do your 23andMe, your ancestry test.
Yeah.
Our second episode, that's what we talked about. And it's really interesting to see the percentage of your background. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My mom's been trying to convince me, I'm a hard person to convince in some things like that, just giving over stuff to the government. But
that's fair.
But yeah, I have been considering it because I do want to know ultimately one day. So
yeah, and it's also how much importance do we actually put on it, right? Yeah, it'd be cool to know where we came from, but in the same vein, it's does it necessarily matter, because we're just navigating our lives now, and we know what our parents have told us, and we're just moving on from there. So it's kind of a 50-50 thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So big thing for you, from what we can tell, is basketball. That's how I found out your account. So I coach basketball up here in Fort St. John. And I like to follow a lot of basketball accounts and social media and just see what the universities are doing.
Right.
And that's how I stumbled across your account and just watched some highlights. And then I was once we started this podcast, I just started messaging people, assuming that they were mixed. I didn't even know if you were mixed.
Right. It's so light. When I tell you I'm so light, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I saw a picture. I think it was a Seattle University picture. You look like Zach LaVine. So I was like, shit, he must be mixed.
Yeah, it's funny. I get the Zach LaVine. Well, I got a lot more when I was younger, when I didn't really have a beard. But I got that comparison weekly. I went to Seattle. I had people mistake me as Zach LaVine on a weekly. Crazy.
Yeah.
Can't lie. A couple times I was like, yeah. No, I'm totally kidding. But it was hilarious. I've heard that hundreds of times, but it's funny.
Does it bother you at all anymore when you get compared to someone like that?
Not at all. To me, I grew up playing against Zach LaVine in AAU. He was a few years older than me, but I played up. Okay. Man, I always looked up to him and admired him. being a little kid, like, I mean, every little kid in the world's goal who likes basketball is to go to the NBA, you know? So for me, it's like, it's cool, you know? Like, I'm not one of those people who's like bothered by much, you know? Like, I'm pretty easygoing and just, you know, to me, it's like, it's cool. Like, it's just funny. Like, and to me, like, what's bad? What's wrong with looking like Zach LaVine? I mean, he's one of the best players in the world, a millionaire, like, and like an awesome guy. He's, it's funny speaking of him. He's best friends with my old college teammate who I'm really close with. So he would play with our teammate like at Seattle U all the time. It's just small world.
Right. Is he from the West Coast? Is that why you played against him?
From Seattle. So I grew up in Belleville, which is 20 minutes out of Seattle. So he's like a Seattle raised kid. And he was always like a great prospect. He was not an NBA prospect until UCLA. It's like just amazing, right?
Is your game similar to his, or did you model it after someone else?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't fly like he does.
Right.
He jumps so high. I would say in terms of smoothness, my game is extremely smooth. I think that's what makes me good, you know. And I'm an extremely smart basketball player. I understand angles, pick and roll, and I'm like more athletic than people think, you know. Like I'll dunk on someone like surprisingly, and you know, because I jump in and people think I don't use my athleticism to score. I would say I play a lot like and this is going to be a comparison that some people might not even know. George Hill, he's been in the NBA for 10 years, 12 or 13 points a game, but just like a smooth, slower game. He's long. He shoots it really well. I also shoot it very well, and he understands the game. And I mean, he's just like a really good pro, you know. Like,
yeah.
And that's like, and it's not the flashy answer, but it's just the truth. Like, I see a lot of similarities in our game, and he's someone I've actually tried to model my game after. Which, you know, I don't know how many people have tried to model their game after George Hill. You know, so it's interesting. I saw like a lot of the same. Like the way he moves is how I move. He's a little longer, but
right.
I don't know. To me, it was just I saw someone who looked like me in the way he played, and I was like, well, he's in the NBA. I mean, my whole life, I mean, I've obviously wanted to play in the NBA, as I said. I think every hooper does. So, yeah, that's my comparison. It's a curve.
Is he still on the Bucks?
He is, yeah.
Yeah. So like he's going to be a huge part if they make it. Well, they'll make it to the East Finals, but if they make it to the finals,
you think they will?
To the finals?
Oh man, that's a really good team because Chris Middleton might be one of like the top 10 to 15 players in the NBA, and he's like super underrated. But man, my issue is just Giannis can't shoot yet. Like, who's going to close the game for them in a playoff? That's my only issue. Because Giannis through 3.5 quarters will have 35 points and 17 rebounds. But just in the last couple minutes of the game, if it's close, you know, like I just see the Raptors having experience. I see, you know, the Heat. They're good, man. They all can shoot. It's so hard to guard a team all can shoot. And Jimmy Butler's a dog. Like, it'll be hard for Giannis to really get going on him like that. And then I see the Sixers. They're finally moving Ben Simmons to like the 4 position. So I just see that. I think they're going to surprise the hell out of people too. So I don't think Milwaukee's going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they'll lose in the semis.
Right.
That's a bold take, though.
Hey,
so
anyone can. The East is strong now. Like even Boston, right? You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Lakers versus Clippers showdown at some point.
Yeah,
that'll be a fan series.
It's funny. I was watching this thing. I think it was on Twitter, CBS Sports, the snitching hotline. It was like a little comedy thing.
And that's funny.
And it was the one that's like, Giannis is making threes in practice more than everyone else. They're like snitching on him. It's pretty funny.
That video was hilarious.
Yeah.
Watched that too, actually, just this morning.
So an interesting thing that comes from like your parents. So we were talking about this earlier about how basketball was our sport because our dad's Filipino. So that's their sport.
Right. My best friend's Filipino, so black and Filipino. So yeah,
oh, wow.
I know all about that.
Yeah. So in basketball I'm willing to bet it came from one of your parents liking the sport and, you know, it was their thing.
Yeah. Well, you're not wrong. My old man was a really good hooper growing up. He played at Concordia. He actually won a CIAU, which is now U Sports National Championship, and was like a perennial all-star in that conference. Never all Canadian. I won up from there, but he won a championship and I didn't. So he has me on that. But yeah, I grew up playing 3 sports, but I was just like, I loved basketball. And like I'm like generally, I would argue one of the only kids who like, I always loved basketball. And like, I never really loved anything else, sports wise. Like, I watch football, but I don't really watch football. Like I watch basketball all day if I'm not hooping. It's just, I don't know. I'm kind of like that in a weird way. But yeah,
that's probably what makes you so good at it though too, right? It's that dedication at it, and even on the off time you watch it, and
Mm-hmm. I have a long way to go for sure in basketball, and I do want to play as long as I can. I have to get a lot better, but I mean, the reason I feel like, especially here and on the West Coast, I've passed so many people is because it's been a job for me since I was a kid, but it doesn't feel like a job, you know, because I wake up and I love to do it, right? And for work, like, you know, I coach camps for kids. Like personally, me and like a big bro of mine, we're not blood related, but he's like a big brother to me. We run our own dry land training. You know, like I don't know, I love it. Like it's just. It's just me. Before we move on, I got to give a shout out to my mom too. My mom was a real cold hooper too. Really good in high school and got recruited to play in pretty much every college in Quebec. But just family situations, she had to work like 3 jobs to get through college, so she couldn't afford to do it. But yeah, she's in her 50s and still plays in women's leagues today, and
that's cool.
She busts ass. Like she's nice.
Sounds like a hard worker.
Yeah.
It's crazy what's passed down from our parents, right? Just that. I'm listening to a podcast right now talking about genetics and how like pretty much everything about who we are comes from the genetics. It's really interesting. And then of course how we were raised in our environment. There's 2 things, I was thinking about this earlier, there's 2 things that really allow you to excel at basketball, even more so than the hard work and dedication, I think. And you can correct me if you think that I'm just blowing smoke, but number 1, genetics, for sure. Like it's passed down, whether it's your size, your athleticism, etc. Like for us, our dad was 5'6" and our mom is 5 foot. So we just got the short end in terms of genetics.
Right.
Terrible.
And the second one is opportunity. So like the more camps that are available, the more training, club ball, playing against better competition. And that's why I think the States are better than Canada. It's just more opportunity.
Right.
And I think those 2 things trump hard work and dedication. And then if you have those, the hard work and dedication takes you to the next level.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I do have an opinion on that actually. So speaking of genetics, I come from like a super athletic genetic bloodline, but I'm by far the tallest one, but I didn't get the twitch athleticism that my father had, my father's father had, my father's father's father, and the jumping ability. Like my dad would dunk on 7-footers at 6'1". Like my dad was like a freak athlete. Like he has like clippings in his house of him like jumping over someone. You know, he was like a real freak athlete. My dad's dad, who I never got to meet, played in the CFL for 15 years. He was a 60-minute man. He played the whole game. He had like one of the highest tested verticals in CFL history. My cousin just played at St. George's. He jumps like 41, 42 inches. Like everyone is super athletic. And I could still jump. I'm like 35, 36, which is still good, but it's like, it just, man, it bugs me because I'm a person, I just work hella hard. It's all I know. And it just bugs me. Like, man, if I could have just got that natural gene that everyone else got, man, like, I really feel if I jumped like that, I would be in the NBA. You know, I feel like that's one of the things that's stopping me from that dream.
Right.
But I'm still chasing it. As we speak, it's a long way away. I'll keep it real, but I mean, to me, like it was my childhood dream. I'll never give up that little dream, even if there's a chance it might not happen. But I mean, I'll be playing in the G League in a few years, like I plan to. So, you never know what could happen, right?
Yeah, I forgot to mention in the intro when I was introducing you. I'll probably go back and retape it. But you're going on to play pro, hey, in Europe?
Yeah, I'm gonna start my career there, absolutely. But we could get to that. I got to get back to your question.
Yeah.
About opportunity. Opportunity is the biggest creator of hoopers. If you're lucky enough to live in a place where there's a member of the community or a high school coach or someone who lets you in the gym all the time and who will mentor you and who understands basketball, teach you the game, no matter how hard, no matter how hard you work, unless you're just like the freakest of athletes or just like, you had all the right people around you at the right time. Like it's so hard. It's so hard to make it, I got to say, I was very blessed that come from a basketball family. And, like my high school coach is a legend in BC. He's in the Hall of Fame for basketball in British Columbia. And, my coach in like fifth grade, along with my dad, who coached me kind of my whole life growing up, Mike Jackal is the all-time leading scorer in Germany, like in Germany history, So I had every break of every, like I had all these like great basketball minds who I grew up around, it was almost, that's almost not fair, it was such an advantage. Did that mean the gym every day, every morning? So, I understood so much more about basketball than I would argue. I would argue when I was like by my second year in college, like, there's very few people who actually understood the game anywhere more than me. I would even argue in the NBA. Like I just spent so much time in it, but it does come down to opportunity. Like, I still think regardless, like if you work hard, I still would have been a very good basketball player. Just my opportunity for learning and my opportunity for like I would have had to, get it out the mud more outside, which I would have done, and there's still a way like that. But for me, the path when I was younger was easier. Now, as I'm older, it's harder because, no one really tries to help you when you're grown, right? Mm-hmm. It's a lot different. Yeah. But I guess, that answers the question.
Yeah.
And genetics, being 6'4" definitely does help. Like,
yeah.
Saying that, though, a lot of the best guards in the NBA are small. And in Europe, 7 of the 10 best guards in Europe are under 5'10". Like, like the game's changing, it's just, I think the game's just going to continue to get smaller because it's just spreading out more. Right. And we value 3-point shooting over post-ups because it creates more points, right?
Yeah. And defense is not necessarily the most important thing if you can outscore an opponent.
Right. Absolutely. It's tough because, like when you spread the court that much, you're basically playing one-on-one. You're in sets, but essentially it's going to create an advantage for someone else, maybe coming off a down screen or a pick and roll, but it's going to turn into a one-on-one or one-on-one maybe to a kick three. But with all that space, it's almost impossible to play defense if everyone can shoot.
Right.
Because there's like, instead of like when two guys were posting out, there would be like, I don't know, 8 to 12 feet of space, maybe 6 to 8 feet of space between defenders. Well, now we spread the game out, there's like 12 feet of space, That's a lot easier to score,
Yeah.
That's why I just think the game's going to, until it changes back, it's going to keep getting higher and higher. Like, you watch Houston play, and people hate how they play, but they're the third best offense in the NBA, or the fourth. Like it doesn't look good, but it produces results. They average 112 points a game. Like,
and that 5-out works.
Right. Like, and it's like the old school mentality. It's not a fun brand of basketball to watch because, we're taught all life to be unselfish growing up and to move the ball. And, you're watching James Harden take 40 dribbles, but at the end of the day, like that's how they see themselves winning. Like, and like we have to accept that. Like that's still good basketball for them. Not for a lot of kids at the youth level and even at the esports D1 level, but at that level, when guys are that talented, it works.
Yeah. It's the elite of elite.
Right.
I was thinking of implementing a 5-out for my high school team this coming season, which we probably won't have a season anymore, but I just see the advantage to it. And just the ability, because everyone can shoot now. Everyone can shoot threes.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I think what I love about this is it empowers players. You know, when a coach gives players freedoms to maybe take a few early shots and maybe get into a rhythm, and then it'll allow like the players who maybe are your bench guys or your fourth and fifth starter to feel confident in the last couple of the games, because, you know, they're not going to be the guy usually taking that shot. But if it's close, you know, because you empowered them, they might even make the shot. The best player passes because you got double, because you know, you instilled like the value and confidence in them. 5-0 does that because, and 4-out went in because you just play in space, and it's so much easier to play in space than to play in traffic. Our coach Bergen used to do that. It was kind of before our time. We were at London Grove. We played 4-out one in, but even our post wouldn't really post up. He'd be a kind of short corners rolling under the rim. It was a different brand that everyone was playing, and that's why we scored so many points. And then, you know, Steph Curry changed the game. But
yeah, he changed it. Yeah. Like, you could argue that it's probably the best basketball that's ever been played right now. Like, it's so fun to watch. Everyone is super talented, and
I love it. And, you know, it is the best basketball. You watch basketball from, like, Jordan's era and even, like, early 2000s, like T-Mac, Kobe era. Like, they would just go 1-on-3, 1-on-4 and win games, you know? Like, I don't really think you could do that now. You know, I mean, Jordan maybe. Obviously, they're going to score their 30. But I don't know if you can win like that now, you know? Like, just ISO ball, like, tough mid-range fadeaway twos, you know, because I just don't see it producing as many points. Like, the games would be in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, teams now even the finals scoring 120, you know? Like, it's just impossible to guard.
It's like someone right now who's just a really good 90s player, like that would do well in the 90s era, and that isn't really thriving right now, is DeMar DeRozan.
Yes.
Like that dude.
I love DeMar DeRozan.
He would have done extremely well in the 90s, you know, like the twos.
Probably been an all-timer.
Yeah. But now he's struggling. He's struggling.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, playing for the Spurs, your numbers are going to drop. Like, there's a stat the NBA actually did. Not the NBA, but some people who are like avid NBA and analytics people. Like, if you start your career with the Spurs and you blossom with and you grow up from them, like, if you stay with them for a while, like, there's a very good chance you could become a potential Hall of Fame guy. Mm-hmm. If you get traded into the Spurs as an elite scorer, your average drops. I think it was like 4 or 6 points a game. I can't remember. Like, a game playing them, because they play like more of a European style game of basketball. They super spread the court, high pick and rolls. They take their time, methodical. You know, you watch DeMar when he's with the Raptors, like, he's just one-on-one ISO, like you know, attack a closeout, like post ups, like. Yeah. You know, I think he's undervalued. He's so efficient. Like, you're that efficient, it shouldn't matter. Like me, I take a lot of mid-range shots, but I'm super efficient there, you know. So my coach will always allow me to, because, you know, I make them at a very high clip. You know, DeMar's like that. And I feel like, you know, because of that analytics, I feel like it's kind of destroying his legacy, and it's not fair. Like, you talk to NBA players, they all say he's one of the toughest guys to guard. Like, you know, and he shoots over 50 from the field for a guard. Like that is so hard.
Yeah.
As a guard.
Mm-hmm. True. Well, I'm a huge Lakers fan, so it would be interesting to see him back home in LA.
Yeah. I'm a LeBron fan. I don't care if he was bandwagon, so I'm Lakers right now. I just LeBron and Allen Iverson, Steve Nash, my 3 idols my whole life. Wherever they played, I was a fan.
Nice. Have you ever met Steve Nash?
Yeah, I actually got to train with Steve Nash in high school. So I was 16 at the time. I just came off Provincial MVP of the 3A, which would now be 4A because they've added a tier provincials. We had won. Right. They're losing the finals. I was playing AAU. This is when I started getting recruited by D1s. I just got my first 2 offers. And, you know, Steve Nash knew Pasha Baines, who's my AAU coach. I don't know if you're familiar with Pasha, but yeah, Drive basketball fan. I played at UBC, was honestly one of the best players we've ever had here. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened. Yeah, through that, Steve Nash went through Pasha, called me, And he's like, "Hey, this is Steve. How are you doing, Jadon?" I'm like, "Steve who? Like, who is Steve?" He's like, "Steve Nash." And I literally go, and my mom knew, and she's like so excited, like kind of filming it. And I had no idea what's going on. I'm like, "Steve Nash?" I'm like, "Stop playing. Who is this?" And he's like, "No, it's actually Steve Nash. I got your number from Pasha." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like, and I was like I could barely speak to him. I was so nervous. I'm like not a nervous person in any way. Like I seldomly get nervous. And yeah, it was like one of those wow factors. I got to work out with him for 3 days at 40th and Burnaby when he was rehabbing, getting ready to play for the Lakers, speaking of.
Right.
And it shows you a different level, you know. I see him doing balance stuff, mobility stuff I never even thought of doing, you know, like, and you really realize to be a basketball player, it's so much more than actually basketball, you know. There's lifting, eating right, sleeping, like everything's important, working on balance, mobility, core, like everything is important, like, you know. And that's a message like I'm trying to put out to kids, like, if you really love basketball, you need to not just be a basketball guy, you need to be an athlete, you know. And if you tap into that young enough, the genetics are going to make up a lot of your athletic mold. But if you could tap into it young enough, then you could max out your athletic potential. And everyone has an athletic potential that's honestly good enough to make it to pretty much the highest level of basketball, non-NBA, you pretty much can. Like, you know, like there's studies saying like pretty much anyone could get to like a 30, 31-inch vertical, even with bad genetics, if they just understood their full athletic ability. It's super interesting.
And that kind of ties into, you actually brought this up earlier, how specializing might not be the best thing, right? So like kids that grow up playing multiple sports, they start to understand like different movement patterns, and they become more of an athlete because they can understand how their body works. And as they get a little older, maybe like grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, that's when you start to focus in on a sport that you want to play. And that allows someone to actually reach the more elite level. I forget what book it's called, but they talk about that, how if you specialize when you're just young and don't play any other sport, you're actually not going to excel as easily as if you vary from sport to sport.
So I fully agree with that. And that's true unless you're like a genetic freak. Saying that though, I fully agree with that. I can't even respond to that. Like, I just agree with everything you're saying. I think all kids should be playing multiple sports growing up. You know, I test my basketball ability and my understanding of seeing patterns or, you know, things before they happen, which is, I think like maybe the beauty of my game, I attribute to soccer, like learning cuts, strategy, score, right? You know, soccer's not like basketball, as you guys know. Like, you might score 1 goals all game, but you learn all these different cuts, patterns, passes. You know, my footwork is really good. You know, like I have a lot of up and under, spins, like all that. I attribute that to soccer. Like without soccer, I don't think I would have been able to do a lot of the stuff I do on a basketball court.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we both played soccer. Did you play soccer side?
Yeah. Yeah, we played soccer, basketball, and volleyball.
Baseball. I played baseball as well.
Yeah.
It's just like, especially soccer, the spatial awareness, right? Like it's a larger field, and then you have to really adjust accordingly.
Right. But the beauty of soccer and basketball, when it's time to score, you're usually in a pretty tight space.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of like similarities in like terms of that with like a lot of sports. And when I say patterns, like that's stuff you realize, you know.
Right.
Like I'll watch a football game and not even really pay attention to the game and just watch different movements of like how like a running back will move here. And to me, like he doesn't have a ball, but I mean it's the same stuff I'm doing with my feet, you know. Like it's just weird, you know. Like to me, I always feel like you could learn from everything. For me, I was soccer, basketball, and baseball growing up, though.
Yeah.
No hockey, hey?
Hell no, man. I went to one hockey camp in my life. Couldn't skate. Fell, chipped my tooth. Never went back. I was done.
Yeah, same here.
Literally, one day,
smashed my head on the ice, and I was like, nah, no more.
Hey, and it's too cold in that rink, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a common thread for our guests. If your dad didn't play hockey or isn't necessarily like Caucasian Canadian. Yeah, like white.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to play hockey. And I was
Right.
saying like 9 times out of 10 kind of thing, right? Like we didn't play hockey because our dad was like, no, I don't like hockey. It's cold. I'm brown. I don't want to play that sport.
I'm sorry to my kids, unless they really love it. My future kids, like hopefully in years. I'm not waking up at 4 a.m. to drop you off at the rink. Come on now. I've been waking up early my whole life, man. When I'm a parent, I'm gonna try to sleep in as much as I can. Like after my kids, future kids grow up a little bit, right? Because I know all my friends growing up who played hockey, man, they're at the rink at just before the sun even came up. And like, you know, like six is one thing. Like I could do 6, 4, 5. Like, nah, that's not for me, man.
No.
Yeah. Those predominantly white parents, not to judge, because I do have a lot of friends of color who play hockey.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing they all say, the parents, they hated it. Couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just like the cultural Canadian thing, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you like, we always argue if we embrace a different part of our culture, we go a different way with sports. And it seems to be a common thread.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So I'm going about it because, you know, I would be extremely cool with playing my whole career in Europe.
Okay.
You know, I'm gonna go in, and how it works in Europe. So if you're like considered like an NBA guy out of college, you could go somewhere and play for big money right away. You know, but if you're all the other guys, and I'm talking like all the like conference all-stars at like the mid-major, like D1, like all these really good players, you know, all the top level guys from Canada, the esports guys, we're all in the same pool of players. And they call they're like entry-level leagues, because you essentially have to start over again and prove that you could play the European brand of basketball, right? Because, you know, on a team in Europe, there's 12 spots usually, maybe 15. There's only usually 2 import spots. So 2 American or Canadian spots on a 15-team team. So it's exponentially harder. But for me, like what I want to do, and like my dream is I'm going to build my name up in Europe. I don't know how long it's going to take, maybe 3 to 4 years. But I want to get to the point where it's like I'm not trying out for the G League. Like I'm being asked to play by 10 teams for like they could give me. Like that's how I come to the G League. If I did well enough in Europe, I'm not going to come and grind my way up the G League, because to me the money's just not good enough to try that. And you go to a league like a G League, it's not real basketball. It's just dogs trying to get to the league, right? There's so many good players in there, and you know, like the lifestyle living in the G League isn't the greatest. But for me to come to the G League, you know, I have to get a lot better, and I have like a 3-4 window to try to get to like a top 3 or 4 league in Europe. If I could do that, then I could come to the G League and make as much as I can, and you know, see what I could do. You know, you never know. Like I'm a person, like the glass is half open, not the glass is half full. And you know, it's a crazy dream, obviously, you know, especially coming back to youth sports. But you know, I feel like people give them their dreams a lot of times, often at too young an age, and you know, they regret it later. And you know, I'm never going to be that person.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's smart. That's a good way to do it.
Smart. Yeah, it's inspiring for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I think differently than a lot of people, and I attribute it to, as we talked about, how I was raised. Like I was raised very differently than most people around here in the Lower Mainland, around Vancouver. I grew up in Langley, but you know, I was raised differently than, you know, a lot of kids here. Grow up differently than a lot of other places in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, like, most of the things that happen early on in our life aren't under our control. Like you don't choose your parents, you don't choose where you're born.
Right.
A lot of, I guess you would say, luck. And then from there, as we start to develop and understand life, it's all under our control.
Right.
We take the reins. It's our lives now, and we can reach our dreams, but it's important to know when to adjust, right? Like that's the biggest thing I learned from Dwayne Johnson, like The Rock, when he talks about his dream was to play in the NFL. And once he got cut from the CFL, like the Stampeders were like, "No, you're not good enough." He understood that, yes, sometimes you need to pivot with your dreams, and you can still grind and work hard and find out. And sometimes your dreams change, but it's important to understand when to like give up, but give up in a good way, in a way that propels you forward, right?
I don't know if it's like adaptable. So it's not just like giving up. You're just adapting to your circumstances, right? Whatever life is throwing at you, you can just switch and adapt. It's not necessarily giving up, because even then you just change what you're dreaming, and it could be even bigger than your initial one, right? And then from that you can just grind even harder on that one. And
absolutely. Absolutely, with what both you guys said. And speaking of that, for me, like, barring an injury, knock on wood, I'm going to try to play it as long as I can. But we all know, for every athlete in the world, no matter what level, it ends at some point, you know? And for me, like, I know for me, I want to work in basketball. I don't exactly know what I want to do when the ball stops bouncing, but, you know, I'm going to work in basketball, whether it's helping kids or maybe at a college level, you know? So for me, like, you know, my dream was always basketball, you know? So, like, to me, it's gonna be super tough not playing anymore, but I'm fully, like, excited. Like, I'll be excited for the next part of my life at that stage, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna stick to the game. Like, you know, the game has loved me my whole life. So to me, I'll always love it back.
Yeah, and it has such a big impact on others when you love something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, for me, so I transitioned when I had ACL surgery last year, and by no means was I like playing in a league or anything, just, you know, random pickups and men's league kind of thing. But after I understood my body was like you're not playing at a high level, and I went back into coaching, like, I just fell in love with coaching because I was still around the game. All the players still love the game. And you develop that connection. So
man, there's nothing for me. I coach a lot of kids too, through Drive right now. And also, as I stated earlier, me and my one of my started our own dryland training. It's called The Clinic. Emerson Murray's running it, one of the best players ever from here, alongside with me. But man, just seeing the joy of kids, like, seeing improvement, you know, you don't really realize that. Like, when I was younger doing it, you don't really see that. You know, I was still like a kid. I'm 18, 19, coaching them. But now I'm older, 24. Like, and there's a joy, like, you know, knowing you did something to help a kid improve. You know, like, there's some kids that did camps with me when I was super young. Man, they're in college now playing. You know, like my teammate Jack Cruz Demont. Like, I used to coach him in camps when he was young. You know, like, he used to watch me play in like grade 6 and grade 7. You know, and now he's my teammate. Like,
oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Like, it's just amazing, like, how the world comes full circle.
Yeah, that community, when everyone loves the same thing, like, it's so beneficial to be a part of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, so like I'm up in Fort St. John, Size in Victoria.
Yeah.
And our opportunity here is super limited when it comes to like club basketball and camps. We're so far north. I don't know if you know, we're like 13 hours north of Vancouver.
Yeah, I know. I've had some people I grew up with, like, work up there.
So this past year, like, I started my own club team as like a prep season, right? So before the high school season, and I started my own team, and we brought them down to Vancouver to play in a drive tournament. So just, they had so much fun getting on that plane, playing in that. We played at the Oval.
Yeah. I would have been scorekeeping.
Oh, nice. So
I've worked that tournament every year. I scorekeep all day. I like to stay in touch with like a lot of the younger kids, man. And just, you know, like I said, I love basketball, man. Like, I don't care what level. Like, I just love it. Like,
you might have saw our team then, because we played in the I think it was October. We played.
October? Oh no. So I wouldn't have been in it. I thought you were talking about the May tournament. So no. My fault. Sorry. But if you guys like, when you guys come down, let me know. I'll definitely come check them out and talk to the kids after. Like, you know, like, I mean, you know, all you guys need is one person to make it out of there to college, you know, and that could create a dream for a lot of kids, right?
Like because we play the drive team, so we're in the 17, 18-year-old division. We played a drive team and we almost we held our own. We almost won. We almost beat you guys. And this is a team.
Of that. That's what I'm talking
Fort St.
about.
John. And I had another player actually from Alberta. So it was a multi-city team. And the coach, I forget his name, but he was saying like you have a couple of good college prospects. And they are. So they're going off to play college in Alberta next year. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And all that's going to do is just have these young kids who live there just see these kids as heroes. You know, for me, like, you know, one of the things that I'm blessed enough to have done, and I didn't know this, I didn't really understand this at the time, because I was the first male Division I player ever from Langley. You know, there was everyone before me, you know. So for me, like, you know, like I was 10 years old, I was trying to get to the league. Like, you know, I had like just a different type of mentality than everyone else. You know, I had like a very almost American style mentality. Like, you know, I thought I was gonna be an NBA player my whole life until I was like 18 or 19. I'm like, man, I got to get way better. You know, like I have a long way to go. But you know, like that mentality just, you know, pushed me. I created a pipeline. Then now you look at one where we had Tyrell come up, transfer on, come up a few years later. You know, he's a great player, plays at Cal Baptist. You know, just tore his ACL actually, but he'll rehab. As serious to play, like, I mean, I don't see him not being a double figure guy at D1. You know, and if he ever did came home, I mean, he'll be great. James Woods, Len Juco averaged 20. You know, we have this younger kid coming up named Jacob Antek, who will be maybe potentially a high major D1 player. You know, and I was lucky. Like me and my family, we created this dream. You know, we did it. My team won, and it just created like in Langley, everyone loves basketball. You know, and that was my high school coach, me, like our team. You know, and it's crazy how, you know, one or two people could really change everything and without even realizing they're doing it, you know?
Yeah. The impact.
Yeah, it only takes one person. That's
right.
true. Get the ball rolling.
Like, I mean, for Canada on a larger scale, it was Steve Nash. Like, yeah, because he really excelled as a Canadian. We had Canadian players before, of course, but they were never MVPs.
Right.
So, and it's awesome. We take pride in that because he's West Coast.
Right?
It's a BC guy right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Nash is, oh man, it's crazy. You know, like people who don't know basketball is always like, oh, I don't know how he's so good. He's not athletic, man. Steve Nash was so athletic in terms of like stopping, changing direction. Like, he was the best in the NBA at that. Like, I mean,
just because they just throw that blanket statement out there, right? Because he's white. No, he's white, so he's not. Like John Stockton, Jesus. When I was just watching some footage, like he was so athletic.
Man, they're dogs. Like a point guard in the NBA, you see how even John Stockton, but even now you see like a Fred VanVleet, for instance, like under athletic, kind of looks chubby. Obviously he's not chubby. It kind of looks like it. He doesn't look like he belongs in the NBA court, you know? You know, he's playing against Westbrook. All these like just genetics, just freaks at people, just getting buckets, you know? Like it really goes to show you to me, if you really meet the right people and get the opportunity you see, dude, almost anyone could do it. I mean, there's stories of guys coming from towns of 2,000 people making professional sports, you know? Like, man, it just takes it just takes one kid who's just way different and, you know, has some genetic gifts, right? Mm-hmm. It's honestly, like, it's crazy. As hard as it seems, it's as simple as that in a way. But by simple, I mean, you know, you might find a kid like that once every 25 years, you know, like, right. But you never.
Yeah, no, that's true. But then it creates a precedent. Then it's like, oh, I see that guy doing it. I think I can do it now.
And you know what?
It's like,
you know what? Getting into college and getting some of your education paid for and doing what you love, man, is incredible.
Yeah, I bet.
Like for me, like I played Seattle U was $65,000 a year institution to go to. You know, I have no college debt. You know, so few people could say that. That's because of basketball, right? I got my education. I'm not exactly the biggest school guy, but I got my education and my degree and a minor too because of basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
And we could argue that like sport right now is so important for today's world. Not only to get kids off the screens, right? If they're obsessed with a sport, they'll get off those screens, they'll get off the technology, and it'll benefit them. But to pay for university as well, as everything is getting inflated, prices are going up, it's more expensive to live. Like I think sport right now, it's so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, it's wild, man. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad, like how expensive it is, and like the reality is, like a lot of families, you know, can't afford that type of stuff. But yeah, sports to me are the most important thing in the world, and I think it's even bigger than just getting off the screens. I think the bigger picture is, especially at a young age, sports gives kids something to do, so they don't have all this free time on their hands. You know, a lot of kids who go in the wrong direction grew up not playing sport. You know, after school, like, you know, there's kids who are gonna play a sport or have an activity to do, maybe dance or something. And then there's the kids who, you know, had nothing to do from 3 to 9. You know, those are the kids who oftentimes get in trouble or their life takes a wrong turn, you know, at a younger age. You know, I think sports bring people together more than anything, you know. Like, you could not know someone, you know, maybe be in a bar watching a soccer game or a basketball game. It brings people together, you know. Like, it's incredible, like the value and like the relationships in sports. And then you play on a team, man. Like, that's what I love about team sports. Like, a lot of times the teams you play on are friends for life, you know.
Right.
Like, I don't know you guys, but you might be friends with people you played with back
Yeah,
in the day, you know, right? Like, It's crazy. Like, my best friends to this day, like my Canadian best friends, I would say, because I have some American best friends, to this day are from people I grew up with from my high school. You know, they were like, you know, I was a young guy. They're the big brothers to me, man. Like, they're still my best friends, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Life is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess sport, it transcends a lot. It takes, like, it fulfills so many things that have to do with being human, right?
Right.
Being social, being part of a community,
Competition. Yeah, it's
right?
important.
Like, sport is like the pinnacle of what you can do. Well, mostly team sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like our experience from our end is like individual sport wasn't really a thing, like tennis or golf or those kinds of things. The team sport is where it's at.
Yeah, sports. I'm not hating on sports, man. Those athletes are incredible in those individual sports, and the mental toughness to do everything by yourself is next level. Saying that, I'm a team sports guy. Like, I like to see other people succeed. You know, I like to see other people come up. I love that. I love doing something, working together as a unit to win, right? Like, that's huge, you know? Like, I came into college as, like, you know, I was always a really good passer in high school, and I had a very high assist. But, you know, I came into college, like, really, I mean, my mentality was only just get buckets. Like, you know, Allen Iverson was one of my idols. Like, I was like, man, I'm trying to score 30. You know, the older you get, the more you realize, like, wait a sec. Now I'm like a 6'4" PG. Like, you know, I don't even go out really trying to score. I just score throughout the game, you know?
Right.
You get older, the game slows down. Like, you know, for me, like, I was younger, I would have preferred like a 35 and 3 game. Now I prefer like 24, 25 and 8. You know, not only am I still scoring, but I'm getting everyone involved. You know, everyone feels good. So at the end of the game, and that's why we went on a run this year, everyone felt they could make shots because, you know, I empowered them.
Right.
You know, instead of coming down trying to score 30, just taking a lot of bad shots, I sacrificed a lot and passed the ball and let a lot of guys have career years, you know? And to win, like, you have to do that, you know? Like, all the best players in the world, like, look at LeBron. Yeah. There's no reason LeBron couldn't average 40. Come on. But he averaged like 28 and 8. This year he's averaging 11 assists. You know, the team's better because of that. They like to play with him, you know? Like, there's something in that, you know?
Yeah. And that's why, like, I'm a big Kobe fan. Like, he's what got me started watching basketball in like 98 kind of thing. And a lot of people don't know this, but I think he leads the NBA for most assists for shooting guard. Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Like, they forget.
Kobe could really pass, but Kobe's mentality was just, man, why the hell am I passing when I'm in the gym 8 hours a day? And these guys are out. Kobe's mentality was this shot over the whole team, the mascot and the fans is a better shot than an NBA player's open three. Kobe was just different, man. That's why he's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, like my dad was a Kobe guy, so I had to be different. I always loved Kobe, and man, like it broke my heart. Like I felt like I knew Kobe when he passed away. Like, you know, like I felt that I really felt that shit like in here.
I gotta.
Oh man, that's amazing.
There
it is.
I was supposed to get just 8 and 24 tatted on my ankles, but my tattoo artist canceled the booking like the last day because of COVID.
Right.
But yeah, I'm probably gonna get a memorial of Kobe. Like he meant a lot to me in terms of growing up. You know, my dad refers to himself as the Black Mamba. Like my whole life growing up, like no one, like none of my friends call him Mike, they call him Mamba. Like it's hilarious. You know,
that's
like,
awesome. Yeah.
My dog, I have a dog named Kobe. Like,
yeah, so do I.
Yeah. So he was such an impact on our life, you know, and just like the killer he had, man. Like I've tried to instill that in myself as much as I could.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell that's the kind of mentality you have. It's the Mamba mentality, if I had to describe it. So
yeah, I do tell people like I'm different. Like I'm when I say like I'm a dog, like I'm talking in like a perspective, like, man, I just try to do whatever it takes to accomplish my dream. You know, I just tell people like we talked about earlier, I'm not running away from my dream. I'm running towards it. You know, like,
yeah,
I'm not in any ways anywhere close to wanting to give it up. I love it. So, you know, I feel like I'm always going to be like this in every facet of life, but you know, like a lifestyle like mine, it's fast-paced lifestyle, right? If you're on the go, like it's not for everyone, but it's what I personally enjoy. At the end of the day, I enjoy it, and you know, I help people, and I'm doing what I love. To me, you know, I'm one of the luckiest people in the world.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I think that's a good time to pivot to one other discussion before we head out and let you go. Because we could talk basketball for like 4 hours, it seems, but for the sake of the viewers, when it comes to mixed heritage and mixed culture, a big thing for us anyways is food. So like the types of dishes. So what's your experience with the food growing up?
Yeah.
Man, honestly, I played 3 sports my whole life till 8th grade. Man, there was not many times where my parents were cooking, and it wasn't because they couldn't cook. They're great cooks. Just, man, like I said, like I was on the go. Like school ended at 2:45. I was at soccer practice at 3:30. I was at basketball practice at 5, and I was doing hidden lessons. You know, trying to perfect my swing at like 7.
Okay.
Like, so there was never time for my parents to make dinner. They were, I mean, they're my heroes because I mean, you don't realize as a kid, like, you know, a lot of times, even if I got older, my dad at the time or my mom, they both worked in Vancouver. They drive Vancouver to Langley, pick me up, drive me to Richmond, trip to practice at 5, then drive back. Dude, they did this every day for years. You know, it's just like that's insane. Like so few people could say they had as supportive parents, but to me growing up, we didn't get home cooked meals too much, but my parents made some really good meals. My dad's a big roast chicken guy. You know, big chicken family. But more roast over fried. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes. You know, his specialty was like carrots and turnips. Man, it was incredible. And then my mom like loves like steak and stuff like that. And soup. My mom make the best soup. Man, she made crazy soups, and she just throw like the weirdest stuff in there, and it works. So that's what you get. And yeah, like, you know, I loved it. Like, it was dope.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally your fuel for your success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else, Si, you want to talk about? Or
That was good.
Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
We should definitely get you on a future podcast.
For sure. It's just let me know, man. I gotta say one more thing before I get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a food guy though. I love like Korean barbecue. I eat longanisa all the time. I know you guys will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's so good, man. I love all Asian culture food: Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Filipino. I love Jamaican food. Being Jamaican, like I just could care for. I love East Indian food. Like I'm a food guy, man. Like I love food.
And that probably has a lot to do with like a lot of your friends growing up, eh? Just like the diversity in Southern BC and like the types of cultures that pick basketball, right? Like the way that we surround ourselves around our friends, and that influences our food decisions, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. My best friends, I always tell you, I have the most multicultural friend group you've ever seen. All my best friends are different colors and complexions and come from different stories. It's just a wild friend group. Like Asian people, white people, Black people, East Indian people. Like it's awesome. Like I love it.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in a predominantly white area, but I grew up, around a lot of Black, but also people of other color my whole life. It was amazing.
And that's why I argue that basketball is the best sport in the world. It brings together every race. It's currently the third biggest sport in the world behind soccer and cricket. But I argue like more than any other sport, it brings together everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. No debate. Basketball is the best sport in the world. I'm not hearing no other debate about
that. I'll agree with you. Yeah. 100%.
Sure. Hey, that's actually a perfect place to end. So thanks again, man, for coming on.
Man, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And it'll take a couple days for me to edit it. So I'll send you a link as soon as we get it up. And
perfect, man. If you want to see Jordan jersey down this way, you can too, man. I'm just messing with you. Thank you guys, though, for real. I appreciate this.
Yeah, man. Good luck with everything moving forward. Just based on this conversation, I'm sure you're going to do some great things and help a lot of people.
I hope so, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again. And we will talk to you soon, I guess. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, talk soon and stay in touch.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, Jadon.
Yeah, so that was fun having a conversation with Jadon. It was good to, we both haven't met him before, so it was cool to meet someone like that. He was really grounded and humble. He was great.
Yeah, and like we mentioned in the interview, he's quite inspiring. He's going to go on to do great things for sure.
Oh yeah, he'll crush it for sure.
And his influence on local basketball players already is probably tremendous. Right, being down in Vancouver and Southern BC. So we wish him all the best moving forward for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he'll do really well in Europe.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I know this episode was a lot about basketball, but it's going to be whatever our guests are passionate about, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
So please like, subscribe, and click the notifications for future episodes.
Share it with people.
Share. This is new for us. I think it's going to go really well. We have a lot of interest. He's our first pro athlete, and we have
cool.
There's a lot of pro athletes out there that are mixed. And,
that is true.
We know another one that's going to come on. We haven't scheduled a time, but he is a heavyweight boxer, professional boxer. So it'd be good to get him on, and the momentum is just building.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah. So thanks again, everyone, for watching, and we will see you next time.
Out.